Hello and welcome to the iSolved TimeForce software presentation. Today we are going to run through the iSolved TimeForce solution for timekeeping. The iSolved TimeForce product is part of a full suite of products including payroll, HR, benefits administration, but can also be used as a standalone timekeeping solution as well. For purposes of the presentation today, we are going to run through the software starting with time collection, then we'll move into user views, employee, manager, and administrator views. And then from there, we'll go ahead and talk about the options behind processing payroll, reporting, etc. So let's start by talking about time collection. We offer multiple options here, including physical hardware, a mobile app, and web-based time collection as well. For physical hardware, we offer a wide variety of clocks, including biometric devices, card swipe, HID, proximity, barcode. We also offer the ability to communicate via wired, wireless, USB, and cellular communication as well. In addition to physical hardware, we also have software-based time collection. And we have a few options here. I'm going to show you the first, which is what we call net clock or virtual time clock. And the user would come in, key in a PIN code, and the system will pull up their information. And from there they can simply clock in. Or if you'd like to capture additional detail about what the employee is doing, if they go to their mode, they can enter in a department or a job they're working on, or any additional levels of detail that you'd like to track. It is a configurable solution, so I could add to this list, remove items, etc. In addition to physical hardware and web-based, we do also have a mobile app where the user can, via their smartphone, come in and clock in and out from their device. There's different options on this as well, but the concept is roughly the same. The user could either save the entry or go in and do things like indicating the department or location they're working in prior to creating their entry. Now, the mobile app has other options as well. For example, the employee could view their schedule on the app, and we can set this so they see and do the different things that we want them to be able to. So it is, again, a configurable solution there. Now let's go ahead and dive right into the software. We're going to start off with an employee view, and as an employee logs into the system, they'll see their name at the top of the window, some basic information about them. Underneath that, they'll see their current pay week. So this could be a week, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, monthly, or even a daily view here. And then underneath that, I'm seeing when the employee worked, when they clocked in, when they clocked out. Now, if you have employees that won't clock in and clock out, but need to just enter hours, we could do that. Or they could just enter in the times that they worked as well. We've got a lot of options. Today we're primarily looking at an hourly employee who would be clocking in and clocking out. If you wanted to let the employee clock in and out via this method, there's simply a button up top that would allow them to do so. Now, each day the employee works, the system will total up their hours and show those totals here. It'll break the hours up by type, so we'll see regular worked hours, absence hours, overtime hours, etc. And then I've also got this employee scheduled to work, so the system knows when they're scheduled, and it'll take their scheduled times, compare it to what was actually worked, and it'll give me exception notices for instances where the employee, for example, clocked in late, left early, etc. So the system, in addition to tracking the time, also has a full attendance piece associated with it as well. Now at the bottom of the screen you see the option for the employee and the manager to sign off on their time. Like everything else in the system, this is configurable. I could have up to 5 levels of approval if I wanted it, and then I could also turn it off if I didn't want to use it. One of the advantages to using it is it will enforce the time card to be cleaned up, and by that I mean if I try and approve and there are still errors in the system, it won't let me sign off on the time. So by the time I go to process payroll, I'll either have everything cleaned up or the user would not be able to sign off on it, and then I can easily identify time cards that still need to be taken care of. Now from there, the employee, by clicking their username, can also go into the system and request time off. A calendar comes up showing existing requests. Green indicates that a request has been approved, blue is waiting for approval, and red is denied. To request time off, the user would simply click the Request Time Off button, enter the date or date range they'd like to take off, and then from a drop-down menu select the type of time that they'd like to request. The drop-down, of course, is configurable as well, so any options you'd like could show in there. I'm going to go ahead and select this plan called Hourly PTO. The system's then going to show me how many hours the employee has available in their bank, but it also tracks future used amounts as well. So if I had requested some time off a few months from now that had been approved, the system will earmark that time as used and show me what's called a pending available balance. Basically taking future requests into consideration, it'll give me an actual balance of how much time the employee has. When I create the request, it'll email my manager. My manager would then log into the system and they can approve or deny the request. So now we're going to log out as the employee and we're going to go ahead and switch over as a manager. Now the manager view is going to be a little bit different because instead of the employee who just sees their own record, the manager sees all the employees that are assigned to him. So this screen, the dashboard, will allow me to see what's going on with my employees all in one place. The dashboard's configurable. You can set your own options. Each user has the ability to go in and determine the information they'd like to see. So again, I'm showing you my example here, but your users might have a slightly different view based on their needs. Now these little windows here represent the different areas of the dashboard. The first I have is my error monitoring. Then I have a who's in report. Then I have time off requests, and over here I have my hour summary or total hours for the employee. The error monitoring will give me errors such as missing a punch, clocking in late. If someone has overtime or is approaching overtime, the system will give me notifications for that. To fix an error, I can simply click on an employee's name, and that'll pull up the employee's timesheet, at which point I can easily see the error and then go in and fix it. To fix the error, I'd simply click, add the appropriate time into the system, and when I'm ready, I hit create. That'll add the entry into the system, and the system will also keep an audit trail on the entry. Each record that has a dot next to it means that it's been manually entered, and we can report off of who made the entry, the computer it was made from, and when it was made. When I'm done fixing the error, I refresh and go to the next employee on the list and continue to clean up the errors. This section shows anyone who's currently clocked in or clocked out, and it's a configurable screen so I can decide exactly what I want to see. In this case, I see my employees that are in, what time they got there. This person's gone to lunch. It shows the time they left for lunch. The system can also show who didn't show up to work, who's left for the day, etc. Now down here I've got any existing time off requests. I've got a little widget for this, but the manager can also use the calendar just like the employee did. The advantage to this is they can see on any given day how many people already have the day off, who's been approved, who's been denied, and any pending requests. To approve or deny a request, the manager simply clicks on the person's name and they'll have an approve or deny option here. Now, let's go ahead and move back to the dashboard for a moment. The last item on the list was the hour summary. This shows my employees, the total number of hours they have. I can click on the employee to go to their timesheet to see detail, or click the arrow next to their name to see a quick breakout of the number of hours that were worked. When an employee's ready, I simply come in and click off on the time. If there's a problem with an employee, for example, if someone's missing an entry, then the system won't let me sign off on the time. It's going to force me to go get that cleaned up before I can sign off. Now, the manager has other tools as well available to them. There's a wide variety of tools in the system, including reports. During the implementation process, we would assist you in figuring out what views your managers need, the reports they need access to, etc. So let's go ahead and switch our view now. Let's jump over to an administrative view. And the administrator has full access to everything in the system. Let's talk for just a quick moment about the users. First off, you have the ability to add your own roles into the system, meaning you can set up different types of users and allow anyone you'd like to have access to the system. For example, I might have an employee user, but that employee user might be split. I might have users that have a higher level of access and a lower level of access, or maybe just different access for someone like salaried versus hourly, etc. Then I could have roles set up for managers, supervisors, and again, I have unlimited capabilities there. For the administrator, we have full access to everything. We can see everything within the system. This will include the ability to set up policies in the system. A few options that the iSolved TimeForce solution offers. First off, we offer the ability for you to track your accruals in the system. This includes the ability to add the accrual. And you can also go in and establish things like probation periods. And then you would add your milestones into the system. The system can accrue time based off of either a calendar or the number of hours worked. An example of a calendar based, we might say something like, after 1 year of service, every pay period, the employee receives 3.08 hours per period. An example of an hours based would be something along the lines of, give the employee 1 hour for every 30 hours that they work. And then we can establish the type of hours that are included in the accumulation of the accrual. Then we need to decide things like whether or not rollover is allowed, how much rollover, is there a maximum the employee can earn, things of that nature we need to set up in the system as well. So comprehensive accrual tracking, and of course as many different types of policies as you might need. The system also has the ability to track holidays. Again, you can add your own holidays into the system, create whatever list you'd like, and then the system can determine things like probation periods for new hires, how many hours do we pay the employee, if the employee works on the holiday, do they receive holiday hours and worked hours, and do we require them to work the day before and after the holiday to get paid. Then from there, the system has the ability to add pay codes. A simple example of a pay code would be something like overtime, where we pay the employee time and a half for anything over 40 hours. But the pay codes can stretch beyond that as well, and we can create our own rules. So for example, I could create a pay code that will pay the employee a differential for working specific times of days or days of the week. And there's a lot of variety there, so the system can go in and calculate almost anything associated with differentials, on-call pay, etc. Then of course we have things like rounding for hourly employees. We can round their time to the nearest quarter hour, or you could create rules around when an employee comes into work. For example, I could say if an employee comes in anytime between 6:30 in the morning and 7 a.m., let's just go ahead and pay that employee right to 7 o'clock. So I can create my own rules and policies in the system. This is all part of the implementation. We assist you with this setup. Now, we collect the employee's time. We're now ready to process the time. So at this point, we're going to go into the pay period, and we're going to go ahead and close out the pay period. Closing the pay period is a process by which we're able to get the data out to payroll. And whether that means we're using the iSolved payroll solution or we're using another payroll provider, we're going to create the data and then push it to one of the solutions. The first thing I would do here is begin my process, at which point the system will give me a report of employees whose timesheets were not approved. So this list represents anyone whose time cards were not signed off on. There is an option at the top to send out email reminders to get them approved. From there, the system will show the total number of hours that were captured, if there's any overtime, and it can also capture basic pay information as well. Pay is certainly optional. It could be turned on or turned off. The last step would be to lock the pay period. This prevents users from making any future changes, as we're going to be sending the data to payroll at this point. At this point, when I hit complete, there's just a button to put the data into the payroll system. As we talked about earlier, the iSolved TimeForce is part of a suite of products including payroll and HR and benefits. Clicking this button will put the information into the payroll system. If you're using a third-party payroll provider, please talk to your sales representative, as chances are we would be able to accommodate that as well. We would simply create an output file for your payroll. Now, lastly, the iSolved TimeForce solution offers a full suite of reports. It also has a report writer built in as well. Reports can be pushed to PDF, Excel, Word, and XML. Reports can be configured as favorites, or as I mentioned, you can create your own reports in the system as well. So a wide variety of reporting tools built right in. Now we're going to talk real briefly about a couple of options that we offer associated with the timekeeping. One we've spoke about earlier, which is the scheduling. The system has the ability to schedule employees to work, and what the scheduling would do is it would allow you to go in and monitor information and, for example, receive a notification when an employee does not show up to work, or if an employee leaves early. These notifications can be either the reports or dashboards, or they could also be sent via email as well. Now, for the actual scheduling, we offer multiple types of scheduling. We offer a spreadsheet schedule, and the spreadsheet schedule is basically a dynamic scheduler that allows you to go in by employee and key in what the employee is going to work. Or I could make changes as well. So for example, on this day I could adjust their start time. Here I could tell the system that they're going to be leaving early. Or I could add double shifts by just adding a row into the system and telling the system they're working a second shift on any given day. The scheduler would also allow me to just simply key in for an employee the days and times they're going to work. It's a dynamic scheduler, meaning this is for organizations where the employees don't necessarily follow a set schedule or pattern or some other definable process that they would follow. Instead, we don't necessarily know what the employees are going to work from week to week, so we just key their times in here. Once an employee is scheduled, there is a copy feature, so if one week is the same as the next, I could simply copy it across. The system also offers what's called a shift scheduler, where we can go in and assign an employee to work a specific start time and end time and tie that to the days of the week. So when I go in and schedule employees using this method, instead of being a weekly basis, I would go in and say, let's take our 8 to 5 Monday through Friday shift here. Starting on August 1st, the following employees will work that. Then those employees, starting August 1st, will work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. It'll leave them on that until I change them. So if I have employees that always follow the same pattern, I schedule them once and I'm done. I could do this by individual as well, so I could go down the list and say, starting August 1st, I want Clint to work 8 to 5, Felix works 7 to 3, and so on down the list. Now, the other option we're going to look at today is the job tracking. There is the ability to track jobs in the system as well. And the definition of a job, of course, varies by organization, but it's typically something along the line of a project an employee's working on, but it could be something like a specific job, task, work order, or something where we want to track the number of hours the employee's working on a specific job. So the first thing we need to do, of course, is establish the jobs that we're going to be using. The jobs can have levels, so within a job I could have jobs underneath that job, and I can break that down as deep as I need to. From there I can also establish what are called tasks. And a task could be anything I'd like, but again, in the interest of showing an example, we would have a job that's maybe building a home. And as part of building the home, I need to do things like hang the doors and the windows, or I need to go in and do painting and roofing. So I'm establishing specific items that I'm going to be working on the job. Once I've established those items on the time card, we have the ability as the employee clocks in and clocks out to indicate the job or project they're working on and the specific task that they're performing. This will then track the number of hours that have been worked on that job or project, and we can report off that information as well. Now, this concludes our brief presentation today of the iSolved TimeForce solution. If you have additional questions or would like to schedule a one-on-one presentation, please contact your sales representative to